Welcome back, Texas A&M baseball fans. As always, this is Jake McKeever, Marshall Ingram, back off the hiatus. Like every good Aggie, we were at Chili Fest over the weekend, so didn't really get a chance to break down that. But we'll go ahead and jump right into it, Marshall. Texas State came into College Station. Aggies were able to pull it out
Yep.
10-9. Lansing got the start after not pitching at all in the Ole Miss series, lasted only two-thirds of an inning, three hits, five runs, all of them earned in three walks. It was really kind of Johnny Holstaff after that to kind of keep them at bay. And what'd you kind of see from that game with Texas A&M
Yeah.
and Texas State?
So I was interested to see how Lansing would do after getting booted from the starting rotation, and the Lansing woes kind of continued. It was point 0.2 innings, three hits, three base on balls, and then five earned runs in point 0.2 innings. And so that's not what you really want to see. You'd hope that getting booted from the rotation would be kind of a wake up call, but just tough battles continue for him. But you saw some guys step up. Josh Stewart had a really good outing. He goes 2 innings pitched and gave up only two hits, zero walks, and zero earned runs. So that was awesome to see. And then you know guys that you really don't see go deep in that game. Hunter Haas goes deep in the fourth, and then Jordan Thompson goes deep in the fifth. And then just continuing all throughout the game, to close it out, Warner shows off his defense and shows why we're glad to have him back at third base.
I know. I was kind of thinking the same thing with Warner.
Yeah,
You know, I forget who stepped up at third for him off the top of my head. I can't
Caden
think of
Kent.
Kent. Yeah, Caden Kent. Caden
Yeah,
Kent he
mhm,
had a great bat, but he didn't have the arm strength that Warner had.
yeah,
And I was really impressed with Josh Stewart. Braden Garcia, and we'll get into him
yeah,
later into the show, but he was tremendous. Needing four outs,
yeah,
only giving up one hit. And then Chris Cortez, he's had a ton of walk trouble, so it was really good to kind of see him come in and
mhm,
pound the zone. Um, from a lineup standpoint from Texas A&M, we saw Jordan Thompson in center, Max Colfer behind the plate. I still don't know what we're going to see between Colfer and Bard. I think that
yeah.
Gregson has not been in the rotation. And then the center field between Jordan Thompson, Tab Tracy, Case and Wells, and every once in a while Stanley Tucker there. That one's kind of been exciting to see. Um,
Yeah, it has.
Hunter Haas 3 for 5 with two RBIs was tremendous. Jack Moss continued his
Mhm,
hot streak 2 for 4. Um, and then Trevor Warner had two hits as well. From an offensive standpoint, this one was really really good to watch.
yeah,
Obviously, Lansing gave up the 5 runs early. So after that, they battled back, went up tied at 5-5, 7-5 in the fourth, 9-5 in the fifth, and then the staff kind of got a little bit tired. They threw a few arms that I don't think are as talented as some of the other guys that they have. But Texas State's a tremendous team. I'm not
yeah,
sure if they'll be in the tournament, but they'll be right in the mix for one, and they'll be a team no one really wants to see in a regional.
yeah. Of course, definitely not a midweek that you could just glance over. Texas State, they were one inning away from going to the World Series last year. So just definitely a quality opponent. Playing on a Tuesday, which gets you ready for some SEC play on the weekend. But yeah, it was good to see the Ags come out on top after seeing some adversity early.
Yeah, and from a hitting standpoint, they are I wouldn't say they're on par with an SEC, but these next three games are all tremendous hitting teams.
Yeah,
We'll go ahead and jump into I want to say it's the weekend series, but it didn't it wasn't the weekend at all.
late
It
in
was
the
a very
week.
quick
Yeah,
turnaround. So the midweek Tuesday, and then they immediately packed up and went to Auburn Wednesday. So they had one Thursday, then two Friday. Um, Thursday night, we saw our Friday starter. I'm sure we'll mess that up in this show just because of how
yeah,
used to it we are. Um, Nathan Detmer, 5 2/3, 6 hits, 5 runs, 4 walks, 11 strikeouts through 98 pitches. Evan Aschenbach in relief, 3 1/3, 2 hits, no runs. Really shut the door for the Aggies there down the stretch. A&M was down 5-2 and battled back to take the game. Um, Ryan Targash had an RBI. Minnick was really good. Lavalette homered. Targash homered. Boast walked, and this one kind of felt like just the stereotypical A&M game. They get a ton of walks,
yeah,
and then some of those bats that have been kind of falling down get some home runs in Targash and Warner. But
hmm
um, we'll go ahead and kind of get the elephant in the room. I think if Detmer pitches like he did Friday, or I guess Thursday. Already starting it.
Yeah.
I think the Aggies are in a really good position to be competitive in these first games.
Yeah.
And that's kind of weird to say with your Friday guy when he allows 5 runs and 5 1/3. But
Yeah.
with what we've seen from Detmer, this one felt like a B start.
Yeah. Yeah, it did, definitely. And obviously A&M's seen their woes with their pitching staff, but I mean, when they're putting up their offense is putting up 9, 10, 12 runs a game. I mean, if you could just keep your offense in the game, just don't give up 7 in 2 innings, like Lampkin did in game 2.
Yeah.
If like Detmer, he kept him in the game. He goes 5 2/3 and 5 earned runs. You don't love to see that out of your Friday guy, but if your offense is going to score 10 runs a game, I mean, we'll take it.
And I call this one the Brett Minnick game because Jack Moss went 0
Hmm.
for 5. Haas, he did have the 3 walks, but he was 0 for as well. And I think that, 2-3 weeks ago, if we have some other guys in there instead of Brett Minnick,
Yeah,
this is a game where we get blown out. So Brett Minnick is obviously
100%.
huge in the lineup there, just from an at-bat standpoint, being competitive. And furthermore, Targash has been really, really seeing the ball well with Minnick back.
Yeah,
That's kind of been odd to see. Is usually somebody like that doesn't have a big change of pace, but since Minnick's been back, I guess the pressure has been lifted off of
yeah.
Targash, and he's been hitting the ball really, really well.
I think it's taking the pressure off. So taking the pressure off Jace, because I mean,
Yeah,
ever since the minute got back, Laviolette has been on fire, man. I mean, you love to see that out of the freshman. I mean, the outfield right now is on fire. We got to get the Ags got to get that center fielder locked down, but in the corner outfield spots, I mean, they're playing really good right now.
yeah, and I think that's almost a credit to the staff at A&M. Jace Lavalette obviously had a hole in his swing that SEC teams
Yeah.
were exploiting,
Hmm.
and I mean, with the pitches that he was hitting, you can tell that he really, really worked hard in
Yeah.
the cage and on his swing. I'm sure there was some T work in there as well, but he looks like a
Yeah.
completely new player. All of his kind of
Hmm.
weaknesses, it seems like, are now his strengths. He can catch up to the
Yeah.
fastball. He sits back on the curve because that was kind of always his thing. Is he felt like he was behind on the fastball, and then when a curve came, he just still couldn't catch up to it. But great to see him. And like you said, it's the Brett Minich factor. I think that we were looking for a leader, and it's going to be Brett Minich.
Exactly. And I think not like it doesn't just carry over like 2 or 3 guys. I mean, you saw it throughout the whole team. It looks like, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it looks like the A&M team that was playing last year in SEC play. Warner's coming
Yeah, ton
alive.
of walks, ugly
Yeah.
wins. The Tuesday
Hmm.
game was a 4-hour game. This one, I'm sure the time kind of helped us a little bit, but this was a 3-hour game. It felt like a vintage A&M game. And again, they're I wouldn't say that they're back because their pitching staff still has a lot of things to figure out. And but from a hitting standpoint, this is I think the team that we all expected.
Yeah. And to go off that pitching stuff a little bit, we said if we can live, the Ags can live with Detmer giving up 5 runs in 5, 6 innings, but you got to have that guy out of the bullpen come in and deal. And that's exactly what Ashenbeck did. He goes 3 1/3 and 2 hits, 0 runs. And so that's exactly what the Aggies needed coming out of the pen. So
Yeah,
credit
and
to him.
I know a lot of Aggie fans are going to ask why he's not in the rotation. Schloss has hinted at it numerous times that he's a
Mhm.
bullpen guy. He feels
Yeah.
Aschenbach is a little bit more effective when they don't have a big scouting report on it. So expect to see him in this role. And I know it was a quick 2-game series, but I was almost a little surprised that he didn't come back and pitch just because
Yeah.
of how much Schloss has thrown him into the fire this year.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
We'll go ahead and move into the next game. So this one was game one of a doubleheader on Friday. This was kind of going to be the only way that they get it in. Um, more of the same from a pitching standpoint. Justin Lampkin, 2 innings, 7 hits, 7 earned runs, 1 walk. So we did fill up the zone a little bit, but got rocked around. Ty Sexton, 3 innings, 3 hits, 3 runs. Matt Dillard, man, this one was surprising. Three
Yeah, it was.
innings, 1 hit, no runs allowed, and he's kind of been the butt of a lot of jokes. I feel like for our bullpen, I think this was his longest outing of the season,
Mhm.
and I think it was the first outing that he went multiple innings and didn't allow runs. I think every time I've seen him, he gives up, go for balls. So
Yeah.
I don't anticipate. I think this one was kind of an anomaly for him, but again, if you have that from your bottom of the bullpen guy, you're going to be in a great position. From a walk standpoint, A&M only allowed 1 walk as a pitching staff, while the Auburn side, which was kind of the storyline of the game, had 13 walks. And
Yeah.
again, A&M had go-ahead runners on we'll go ahead and address it. The bases loaded single. What did you kind of get a chance to see that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, yeah, I saw. I mean, I watched it live, and then I saw a screenshot of it, and I mean, it looked like he missed him by like 6 inches, and so yeah,
I thought the same thing because his
yeah,
jersey didn't ruffle or
no,
anything. I
yeah,
thought that was very odd, but
hmm
it was a questionable decision to send him with Austin Bose
yeah,
coming up next and Jack
with
Moss
one out,
and all the walks
yeah,
too. I mean, they really added on there with the walks, and
yeah,
it was weird to see. But I
yeah,
think that this was the first time we had seen Sexton pitch the way that he did. He's usually kind
yeah,
of been a throw-in guy, but again, the way A&M hits and the way that they kind of run this bullpen, again, that
hmm
feels like a B outing for Ty
yeah.
Sexton.
Yeah, seriously, it does, man. I mean, he goes. What did he go? Did he go 3 innings and let's see,
3 innings,
gave up
3 hits, 3 runs,
3 runs? Yeah,
no
I
walk.
mean, I again, I mean, if A&M's gonna put up 9, 10 runs a game, I mean, just yeah, I mean, like you said, kind of a B outing. Not terrible,
Yeah.
but just yeah. I'm glad Matt Diller came in and deal the way he did.
From a hitting standpoint and a lineup standpoint, we saw Max Coffer behind the plate. It was Hank Bard Friday. We saw Jordan Thompson in center, but Tab Tracy came on to pinch hit, and then Kason Wells pinch hit as well. And obviously he's the one that got thrown out the plate, so he
Mhm.
obviously came
Yeah,
in. Other than that, more of the same. Bose played second, Targash DH'd, which I think is what we're going to see going forward.
yeah.
Um, and
And
then
then
go ahead.
Jace goes deep twice in the fourth and the
Yes.
sixth. Man, that's awesome to see.
Yeah, and he had a chance to go up there in the ninth, and I think he rolled over but beat it out on the
Yeah.
back end. So he had a chance
hmm
to, but again, and they were long home runs. They weren't wall
Yeah.
scrapers. He hit them to the
No.
deepest part of the field.
hmm Yeah, 100%. And then Minute goes deep in the first, put them up 3-0. And that's really something that kind of frustrates you about this game too, because they had a chance. They should have won it at the end, but
Hmm.
they really had the momentum. They should have taken control in the very beginning because they were up 3-0. I mean, in the top of the first. And so, especially with Lampkin, a guy who's been, one of your better guys on the mound, you don't really expect to see him pitch the way he did, go 2 innings and give up 7 runs. And so,
Yeah, I mean he's human. I think that
yeah, 100%.
I still
I
don't know
agree.
how to feel about our Saturday guy. I don't know if Lampkin's. I think he's a good Sunday guy, but I'm not sure where he is at right now. If he's a Saturday guy and it's
Yeah,
just Lansing who's going to get back, but I mean we didn't see Lansing at all this
at all.
weekend, and
Yeah.
there was a ton of opportunities for him to get in there.
Mhm. Yeah, there was.
Um, and then just as quickly as A&M jumped out into the next game, uh, they rolled out there A&M 12-6 over Auburn. Chris Cortez went 2 innings, 2 hits, 5 earned runs. Shane Sadeo had 1 inning, allowed a run. Brad Rudis got the win, 2 and 2 thirds. Brandon Garcia, 2 and a third. And then Will Johnston came in to get the save. Honestly, I'd kind of forgotten about Will Johnston until they rolled
Yeah.
out there. I was almost looking through when I was trying to figure out who we could still have left to pitch, and I was like, okay. And I was like, wait, Will Johnston hasn't thrown at all. That one was
Yeah.
kind of not a head scratcher, but it was one of those things with the way that Schloss just kind of set up the bullpen. You know what the Will Johnston thing was about.
Yeah, it was kinda weird, and honestly, like, I mean, Brandon we there was a possibility there that, Will Johnson doesn't even pitch that entire series because
Yeah,
Brandon Garcia was dealing, and then, his pitch count got run up a little bit there, so Johnson came in, but I mean, that would've been, like, the first time in years since Will Johnson hasn't pitched in a series.
yeah, and he's been the guy out of the bullpen that fills it up. But
Yeah,
I really liked what I saw from Brad Rudis. I think he did
yeah,
have the 2 walks, but it felt like he was filling up the zone, and I think his 2 walks were in deeper counts. But I think Brad Rudis is going to be the X factor of this bullpen. We can talk about Evan
mhm,
Aschenbach and how he's going to kind of be the guy, but Brad Rudis I think is going to be the one that's going to really step up. And he looked really effective against a very hot
yeah.
Auburn lineup.
Yeah, 2 and 2/3 innings, 2 hits, and, 2 base on balls. That's what you love to see, especially from like you said, kind of that X factor. Not you don't really think about him when you think about Aggie like his
No, not at
top
all.
dogs out of the bullpen. But sure enough, you need him to step up in game 3 of a series, and he comes out there and he deals.
And then the 6 innings of scoreless ball for the A&M bullpen when the
Yeah.
bats, I wouldn't say went quiet because they still had double-digit runs, but the bats did kind of fall
Yeah.
off there at the end. And again,
Mhm.
for them to just go out there and do what they did from a bullpen standpoint, it's going to do wonders if they can figure out a Friday Saturday situation.
That's
I know
what they've been waiting on
Schloss
all
is.
year.
He said he wasn't really an opener guy, but I think Schloss is almost going to have to be his hand forced into an opener. And
Yeah.
I I think Brad Rudis could be an opener. I don't think Evan Ashenback could be an opener, but Brad
Mhm.
Rudis, Will Johnston, um, Brandon Garcia, Shane Sadejo at times. I've noticed he's kind of a one-time through the lineup guy, and anytime he gets out there, is it tends to be one time good, and then everything else. Lineup
Yeah.
standpoint, Jordan Thompson in center, but he was pinch hit for by Travis Chestnut and Tab Tracy as well. And then Coffer behind the plate. Do you like Coffer behind the plate? Do you like Bard behind the plate? What's kind of your
I
rationale with those two?
I like Bard behind the plate just because he brings a sense of experience back there. Kind of that captain of the field. 2 years at JUCO, he's been to the Junior College World Series twice, won it
Mhm.
once, and so I like having that back there. But Crawford didn't play bad this week. He played all right. I mean, that's exactly kind of what a catcher should do. It's like if you don't really notice anything about a catcher, that's when he's
Yeah.
doing good. Catchers shouldn't be noticed, in my opinion.
He
But
has
I kind of like Bard
quietly
in that role.
turned into the catcher because he played in the Ole Miss game, he played Texas State
Hmm.
midweek, and then
Yeah,
he didn't play Friday, but he played the doubleheader, which I thought was a little bit odd given how our catching situation has gone
hmm,
with everything. But just to kind of harp on it, I mean, he won the job out of fall camp, and he really wasn't there that long. So he obviously,
yeah,
I know he kind of had some growing pains, especially at Minute Maid, but I think that's going to be the one that I think Schloss really, really likes
yeah,
is Coffer over Bard.
yeah. Sauce definitely sees more. Obviously, sees more of these guys than we do.
Mhm.
And for Coffer being as not just say inconsistent at the plate as he has all season, and Schloss
I mean,
still
he
gives
hasn't
him
really been
opportunities.
inconsistent if you think about it. Like he's been consistently bad.
No, yeah, that's true. I was trying to
Yeah.
say it in a nice way, but for Schloss to keep giving him like that many opportunities after that, he obviously sees something with the kid.
Yeah, he currently sits at 3 for 25 with no extra base hits. Whereas, let me pull up Bard. I, I know Bard has a home run. So,
Yeah.
but I think, and then Coffer, obviously, he had that one bad game against Louisville with his pass balls. But since then,
Hmm.
he's caught every single game perfect. So every time he's come in
Yeah.
SEC games, he has had, um, perfect defensive games. Hank Bard sits at 208 with 2 home runs. So he is 10 for 48 with 2 home runs. So they not really blow you away stuff, if I'm being honest with you, for either of
Yeah.
them. I know that Bard started every game at Tennessee, and his batting average leaving Knoxville was 250. And since then, he's only had one hit. So across 2 SEC weekends, he's only had one hit. And it's what have you done for me lately? I think with Hank Bard. So that one will
Yeah.
be the good storyline to follow is between Hank Bard and obviously Max Coffer. Because again, it kind of felt like a little bit that Bard was going to run away with the job, and then he gets
Yeah.
cold there for a little bit. But is Coffer's right-handed, right?
Yeah. Coffer's right-handed. Bard's lefty.
Bard's left-handed. So I have noticed that
Yeah.
they've platooned a lot. I know when Jordan Thompson was going through his woes, they were
Hmm.
platooning Tab Tracy and Casey Wells, but the way he kind of has been swinging the bat, he's almost forced Sloss's hand to put him in the lineup, which has
Yeah.
been tremendous to see. Him,
Yeah. It has.
Warner, and Targosh all kind of getting together because Jack Moss really didn't go cold.
No, yeah, and he's probably never going to go cold a day in his life, and so yeah, he's just a professional hitter. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy, man. Like they look like offensively, they just look. I because offensive like the past few weeks, they've been all right. Like they've been able to put up runs, but I mean, they just were on fire this weekend, and so I mean,
It was great to see. It really
it was
was.
awesome. I mean, Laviolette goes 6 for 12, Targac 5 for 11, Haas 5 for 15, and then, Minnick obviously just on fire with 7 for 13. And then Warner was the biggest one for me to see, was 6 for 14 on the weekend. And so, like, because that he's like one of those dudes that you just been waiting for all season through the injuries, through the slumps, and he finally comes alive in this Auburn series in the middle of conference. And so, hopefully, that can carry through.
And he did this last year a little bit too, where he kind of,
Hmm.
I wouldn't say he was cold, but he was injured a ton, and then kind of got hot and won the. I wouldn't say he won the job because he always had it, just because of how good his
Yeah,
glove is, but really kind of ran away with the position. I ended up batting leadoff, so that one will be an interesting. It's a good problem to have for Schloss. With, do you mess with the lineup and tinker with it to see who's hot? But
yeah,
I think Hunter Haas being in that spot with going 5 for 15, that is exactly what they need from A&M. 1 for 3 every game, and then providing tremendous, tremendous defense, I think is awesome for them.
yeah, yeah. And Hunter Haas, like, honestly, like with as bad as he was at the plate last year, I mean, it is insane what he's doing at the plate this year in SEC
Yeah,
play,
it
especially.
truly, and his competition has even gotten better. I
Yeah.
think I like
Do you know what
it's
his
been
average was last year to finish out the year?
it was I'll get it right here. Um, it was, I know he had no home runs, so he hit it hit 300 his freshman year around there, and then last year I think he was under 200. So yeah, his um,
Yeah.
freshman year at Arizona State hit 304 with 2 home runs. Um, went didn't get a single hit in the Cape League, but he didn't get that many at bats. And then Arizona State last year hit 186 with no home runs, hit 211 up at the Cape, and then this year he sits at 383 with 4 home runs.
Yeah.
So of his 6 home
Threw
runs that he's hit
128 at
professionally,
bats too.
yeah,
Yeah.
of his 6 home runs that he's hit professionally, or not professionally, but as a college kid, 5 of them have come in the last calendar year. So
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what's clicked for him at the plate, but it's been tremendous to watch.
Yeah. 100%. I agree. Yeah. I mean, it's the Minnick factor, man. Must
The
be.
minute he was hot before Minnick. That was the part that was
That's no.
so.
Well, Haas was, yeah, but I'm just talking about the team overall. Just crazy.
It's been insane to watch, and if they get that pitching staff right, they're going to
Yeah.
be a dangerous, dangerous team. All right, we'll go ahead and preview the midweek game.
Yeah.
UTSA is going to be a very, very challenging midweek. It's at 24-8, 9-2 in conference. Coming back from Charlotte after getting a split and then a cancellation. 18-3 at home, 6-5 on the road. They do have some tremendous wins under their belt. They beat Houston, who's kind of playing up and getting a little bit better. Baylor, who is a D1, Power 5 team. They beat Texas State 11-2. Utah, they took 2 of 3 from. They beat A&M Corpus Christi 31-6. Um, and then they've been rolling in Conference USA play. Obviously, sit at 9-2. Lost their last game, so they were in a tail end of a doubleheader. So I almost, I mean, you know me. I think my running joke is if you split with a doubleheader, it's almost what you're expected to do. So
Yeah.
realistically, 9-1 or 8-1 in a conference is just a ridiculous number, and they bang the ball around the yard. They're a
Yeah. They
talented,
do.
talented team that's going to pose a great threat to Texas A&M pitching
Yeah.
staff, which is
Yeah, you saw Texas State last week gave A&M a little bit of challenge. Like that's not a team you can look past.
mhm.
Look, but UTSA is almost what Texas State was last year, and so
Yeah.
UTSA, I mean, they have a really good shot to make a run in this tournament. Here in regionals and even regionals possibly.
Yeah, and I got really, really worried as this one has kind of gotten a little bit closer because this feels like a prove it game for Slosh
Yeah.
that they really don't care if I wouldn't say they don't care if they win it, but you're going to see a lot of the guys. I'm sure we'll see Will Johnson, Shane Staho.
Mhm.
I don't think we'll see Braden Garcia just because he pitched so good. He almost worked himself into the weekend. But you're going to see a ton of arms from A&M that we don't always see. And
Yeah.
this UTSA staff leaves something to be desired. But from a hitting standpoint, Antonio Valdez hitting 411, Caleb Hill 353, Taylor Smith 333. So a ton of power as well. They have a bunch of guys in that 8-9 home run range. And when I saw them against Rice, they did not get phased at all.
Yeah.
Rice kind of got out of them early and then battled back into it. And it was a very chippy series, but UTSA is a tremendous opponent.
Yeah, they are, and it's kind of one of the things, like you said, slosh. Yeah, you're obvious. It's a midweek, and so you're not going to burn your dudes, but it sets a tone for the weekend. And so,
Mhm.
especially with Missouri rolling up, in the past, Missouri has been, not a very competitive opponent, but Missouri is different. They're a different Missouri team this year, and so you
Yeah.
don't want to really fall asleep against UTSA because that maybe sets the tone for this weekend. And so hopefully, because Slosh isn't going to use he's not going to use his dudes. Hopefully, like those guys like Dillard and Stewart who can come in and maybe carry on a little momentum of what they have done the last week.
Yeah, and Missouri, this is I call it a duality of Missouri. As we'll segue right into Missouri. Their wins are tremendous. They swept Tennessee at home
Yeah,
and really kind of beat up on that pitching staff. Went 2-3 in Arlington when I got to see them, including wins over Texas and TCU. And in the Oklahoma State game, they even had a chance to win it there at the end. But they have been falling a little bit lately.
yeah,
Lost one run, get 2 of 3 one-run games. South Carolina to get swept. Kentucky double-digit losses in the first 2 games, and then losing on Sunday 3-1. And then Vandy lost 2 of 3, but were in position to win the game. This one is going to be at A&M, so I don't think Missouri travels very well. They've obviously had a few injuries, but again, the way that they hit the ball and the way that the A&M pitching staff, I think Luke Mann, Dalton Bargo, that kind of group of bats, I think is a very, very
yeah.
interesting challenge as well. And then, Cam Chick isn't where he needs to be from a Missouri standpoint. But again, this Missouri team is a lot like A&M, where
Yeah.
they have the talent to show up any weekend.
It's gonna be a really high scoring series,
It
from what
is.
I think. And so, I mean, Luke Mann, he's hitting 351 with 9 home runs. And then you
Yeah.
got Dalton Bargo hitting 318, um, Wilson Meyer hitting 317, and then Trevor Austin hitting 307. Like, I mean, they can swing it a little bit. And so, it kind of dips off a little bit after those dudes, but I mean, that's half of your lineup. And so when half your lineup hitting well above 300, that's always a good thing for your team. But
Yeah, and they have some injuries, so
yeah,
their staff isn't what we saw in Arlington. So again, I think that Dan and Bats have to kind of stay with their approach because as we've seen time and time again from A&M Athletics, when you start to give them a little bit of credit, that is when they kind
yeah,
of fold. So I mean, from a hitting standpoint, Minix almost guaranteed to cool off this weekend just with how hot he's been.
yeah,
Haas, I think is gonna kind of return back to normal. So again, it's gonna be on Warner, Targash, Jordan Thompson, and then the pitching
Post,
staff. I think that the pitching
yeah,
staff, yeah, Boast is another big one. He plays a good second base and he hits when he needs to. But it always seems like when Boast hits, everybody else doesn't, and then when everybody
yeah,
else doesn't
exactly,
hit or does hit,
yeah,
Boast kind of goes
kind of goes
over. So
cold. Hmm.
he's a weird one because every time
Yeah,
he hits good, that he carries them to win the game, but when he
yeah,
doesn't hit, like I don't think I've ever seen him, Moss, and Warner all
I'll get
three
a
be
hit.
hot.
Yeah, yeah, all be consistent. So yeah, that's one thing that you'd like to see, and that'd be scary if it actually, if they actually
Yeah.
synced up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is kind of for Missouri. This is kind of a prove it series, honestly, because
Yes.
they've shown that they're a good team, and then like last night they walk it off against Vandy, and
Uh,
but they're still sitting. What are they? They're sitting at 4-8 in conference. But you look at their wins; they've beaten Tennessee 3 times. They've beaten Vandy once, and then they beat um, I forget who the other one was.
they sit at 4, so they swept
Yeah, yeah,
Tennessee
yeah.
and then won
Swept
at Vandy.
Tennessee.
But
Yeah, and so
again,
they've
they
beaten
they
good
they took
teams.
South Carolina to the wire in both their
Yeah, they
games.
did.
There were one-run losses, and South Carolina is obviously a great team, but I'm going to use a golf analogy since it is Masters weekend. It feels like
There
this
you go.
slate in the SEC is moving day,
Yeah.
where we figure out who's for real and who's not. As we saw with Alabama, I don't think they're,
Mhm.
but I mean A&M, Alabama, Florida, Ole Miss, Auburn. Those are all winnable series, except for maybe the Florida one for Missouri. And
Yeah.
I mean, they're a team that wants to be in the tournament. I don't think they've made the tournament as an SEC team, and I'll have to check when you kind of get talking here to see if that's true. But I believe that that's the case. I think Missouri too. They kind of feel like Ole Miss, where they're a little bit better team than they kind of have let on. Like they still have the talent from a hitting standpoint to make a run, and any weekend they can sweep anybody.
Exactly. And I think this, just playing devil's advocate, this could be a series that, history that, I could see them dropping, like coming off of weekend and then rolling into a team that, you know, has kind of hit a downslope with Missouri. Just when history plays itself on, like the Ag's got to come to play, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, and I did look it up. Missouri has never made the NCAA tournament as a SEC team. They actually are quickly approaching some of their win totals. Um, but I think Missouri, this is definitely the best Missouri team that they've had, not ever, but I think that this is one of the better Missouri teams since I've been following college baseball.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Probables. So we'll go ahead and speculate on A&M, but and then I'll throw out the Missouri guys that they threw last week. But who do you think starts? Obviously, we'll go ahead and get the elephant in the room out of the way. Uh, Detmer and Logan Lunsford
Yeah,
for is going to be the Friday. Saturday, we'll see Rorik Maldred, who's an Austin kid, went to St. Michael's for Missouri, and then Friday we saw Chandler Murphy is who we'll probably see. And again, if you compare them to the A&M pitching staff, these guys have been aces, especially against
yeah.
Vandy last week. So who do you think goes Saturday for A&M?
Man, that's a tough one. I mean, I really have no idea. Because I have a feeling Schloss is going to move Lampkin to Sunday, just because I don't know. Just moving him to Saturday obviously wasn't it this past week, at least. Golly, I have no clue, man. Maybe Cortez. Maybe he moves
I
Cortez
think
to Saturday.
Brad Rudis. I think it's
No
gonna be
way.
Brad Rudis. I think
No
Brad
way,
Rudis.
really.
Brad
That'd be
Rudis.
interesting. I would
I think
I would love to see that. I would
I
love to
would.
see
I
it. A
think
little
it's
opener action.
we'll know Tuesday, but I could totally see Sunday um an opener. And that's the other thing too is
Yeah.
I think that Schloss wants to give Lansing another chance
Yeah.
when he can in an SEC game, and I don't know if it's this weekend or even next weekend as the slate against Kentucky just to kind of look ahead, but
Yeah.
I I want Lansing to get one more chance.
Too, man. 'Cause I like it's just that thought in my mind, like, can he get back to where he was in February? Because I mean, he was the best pitcher on A&M staff at that point. He's just most
Yeah, that
consistent, at
Rice
least.
game that he pitched,
Mhm.
he was
Yeah,
pounding the zone,
electric.
which honestly that was kind of the odd thing, and Schloss just kind of alluded to it is he's supposed to be a fill it up kind of guy, and he just hasn't been.
Mhm. Yeah, and honestly, like, I would love to see Schloss, in games 2 or 3, just kind of accept where he's at a little bit and just go with the opener and just go Johnny
Mhm.
Holstaff on him.
I would
That would
love
be awesome.
Rudis. I would love Sadejo. Sadejo fills up the zone. I know he gets rocked a little bit, but he fills up the zone.
Yeah.
Um, so prediction time. So what do you think A&M goes? And then who is the X factor of the week?
So UTSA, I actually think they dropped that game. I think UTSA is just hot, and I think they're going to want it more on Tuesday. And then, but I do think A&M takes 2 or 3 from Missouri.
So 2-2.
So I say 2-2.
So I think 3-1. I think that they
Three and
beat
one.
Texas State in a 12-8, 12-10 kind of game. We see somebody step up, and I think it's going to be a lot of one innings. We'll see Will Johnson for one inning. We'll see
Yeah.
Sadejo. I think we'll see Lansing, but
Mhm.
again, he hasn't pitched in a long, long time. But I think that one kind of gets some madness there, and then I think we lose Friday and then roll back through Saturday, Sunday. I think we're due
Okay.
for a Detmer flop where he
Okay.
goes 3 innings, and then Saturday, Sunday, with where Missouri sits from a pitching and hitting standpoint, they're going to be high scoring games.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, definitely a high scoring series for sure. And then I think you think Minnick's going to drop off a little bit. I think the guy stays
You think
hot.
he's the
I
X
think
factor?
yeah. I think he's X factor. I think he stays hot this week.
I'm going to go Jordan Thompson. I think that he
That'd be
gets it
awesome.
rolling. I know. Honestly, I need to stop watching Jordan Thompson because every time Jordan Thompson does good, I'm not watching, and then every time I watch him, he strikes out. So maybe I
Yeah.
just need to leave when Jordan Thompson's hitting. But I love Jordan Thompson's approach. He doesn't really get outside of himself. He always looks for his pitch, and sometimes it works in a strikeout. But I think Jordan Thompson's going to be the X factor this weekend from a fielding standpoint and from a hitting standpoint.
Okay. Nice. All right.
Well, I think that that's all we have time for. I want to thank our sponsors, Home Field Apparel. Use code CBC15. Got a ton of A&M gear, so go ahead and get you some. As always, this is Jake McKeever and Marshall Ingram. We'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.